I stayed in a hotel outside Asheville, North Carolina, a few years back while driving cross-country. It was an old roadside inn, nothing fancy, but it had a certain charm. Brick exterior, flickering neon sign, a smell of old wood and faint mildew when you stepped inside. I booked a room for one night, room 327. It was late, maybe around 11:30 p.m. when I checked in. The clerk barely looked up from his desk. No pleasantries, no ID check, just slid me a key card and muttered, "Don't leave the TV on too loud. Walls are thin." Weird, but whatever. The elevator creaked on the way up like it hadn't been serviced in years. The hallway was long, dimly lit with buzzing fluorescence, and empty. Room 327 was at the very end, next to a fire exit with a metal bar door. When I opened the door to my room, the air inside was freezing, like someone had left the AC on full blast all day. The room was ordinary, double bed, scratchy linens, dated artwork of the Blue Ridge Mountains. But something was off. The mirror above the desk had a strange smudge in the corner. Not a fingerprint, more like a cloudy handprint, like someone pressed their palm against it and just stayed there. I told myself I was tired. I took a shower, got into bed, and flipped on the TV. The static hit first. Not just on the screen, the kind of white noise that feels like it's crawling inside your ears. I changed the channel. Every single one was static, except channel 3. That one was strange. It looked like security footage. A hallway, my hallway, dimly lit and empty. At first, I thought maybe it was a glitch or a local news channel showing some security update. But then I saw something move. A figure at the far end of the hallway, standing perfectly still near the fire exit. I stared at the screen, heart thudding. The figure was tall, but there were no clear features. Just a dark silhouette. Then, slowly, it took a step forward. Toward the camera. Toward my room. I turned off the TV. Silence. For a minute, I sat frozen in bed. Then I stood, walked over to the peephole and looked out. The hallway was empty. Packed the door to the deadbolt on. Still, I didn't sleep. Just laid there under the covers, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself I imagined it. At 2:47 a.m., someone knocked on the door. 3 slow knocks. I froze. Another knock. Then the handle jiggled, softly, deliberately. I crept to the door and looked through the peephole. No one. But I felt someone. On the other side. Like the air was thicker there, like it was pressing against the door, watching. I whispered, "Who's there?" Nothing. Eventually, it stopped. I must have fallen asleep just before dawn because when I woke up, sunlight was filtering through the thin curtains and everything looked normal. But there was something new. That cloudy handprint on the mirror? There were 2 now. I didn't shower. I didn't pack. I just grabbed my keys and left. As I turned in the key card downstairs, I asked the clerk, "Hey, has anyone ever reported anything weird in room 327? He looked up, finally meeting my eyes. "That room's supposed to be closed." "What?" He reached for the card, checked the number. "Maintenance issue. Shouldn't have been rented." "Who gave this to you?" I told him he did just last night. His face went pale. "I wasn't working last night. You must be thinking of someone else." I stepped back, confused. He was wearing a green sweater. Kinda balding. Glasses. The clerk stared at me. "Sir, no one matching that works here. And the night shift's been closed for 2 weeks. We haven't had anyone covering overnights." I left. I didn't ask more questions. I didn't want answers. I checked online a few weeks later out of morbid curiosity. The only thing I found was a Reddit thread from 2012, someone asking about room 327 at the Blue Pine Inn. The top comment: "This happened in Flagstaff, Arizona, in 2016. I was in town for a small photography job, just a couple nights. I chose a budget lodge near the woods off Highway 180. The kind of place that still used actual metal keys and left real notepads on the nightstands. The guy at the front desk was polite, maybe late 40s, balding, wore a tan vest with a stitched name tag that read Glenn. He handed me my key, room 104, and said in a low voice, If you need anything, just dial 9. I'll be here all night. The room smelled like dust and old heater coils. No big deal. I unpacked and went out to shoot some late sunset photos near Buffalo Park, came back around 10 p.m., dead tired. That's when I noticed the note on my pillow. It wasn't there before. Just a torn piece of the room's stationery, written in uneven pencil. Don't trust the man at the front desk. I stared at it, waiting for my brain to offer a logical explanation. Nothing. I hadn't seen housekeeping. No one could have gotten in. I double-checked the door. It was locked when I left and when I came back. I picked up the receiver, hand trembling slightly, and dialed 9. Glenn answered on the first ring. Front desk. Hey, I hesitated. Did housekeeping come by? Not since you checked in. I didn't mention the note. Just said, thanks, and hung up. Sleep was out of the question now. I left the lights on and lay in bed, reading news on my phone to distract myself. But then, I heard the click. The doorknob turning slowly. I sat up, heart punching through my chest. The door never opened, but the knob twisted halfway like someone was trying to sneak in quietly. Then it stopped, and I saw the shadow beneath the door. Someone was standing there. I crept to the door, heart in my throat, and looked through the peephole. No one. But the shadow was still there. Whoever it was, they were pressed up against the door frame, staying perfectly out of view of the peephole. I whispered, "Who is it?" Silence. Then, a whisper back. From the other side. But not in words. Just a sound. What? Gurgling. Almost like someone choking on water. I backed away and grabbed my bag, heart racing, ready to leave right then and there. But I remembered, I'd parked all the way in the back lot. That meant passing the front desk. I decided to call the police. I dialed 911. Static. Just static. I tried again. Same thing, white noise. I picked up my cell phone. No service. I stood in the middle of the room, trying to figure out what to do, when the phone rang. The landline. Room phone. I froze, staring at it. It rang again. I answered, hands shaking. Hello. Nothing. Then very faintly, a voice. Don't leave. He's waiting outside. I slammed the phone down and backed away from the door. I stayed in that room, lights on, until sunrise. At 6:15 a.m. sharp, I grabbed my stuff and bolted. I ran to the lobby, where Glenn was still behind the counter, smiling like nothing happened. Morning, he said. Sleep well. I looked at him. His eyes were too wide. His smile too perfect. Like someone pretending to mimic what normal people look like when they're being polite. I left the key on the counter and didn't say a word. But just before I stepped outside, I turned back and asked, "Can I take a picture of you? For a review?" His expression dropped just slightly, barely a twitch, but enough to see something snap behind his eyes. Then he smiled again. "Cameras don't work on me." He said it so casually, as if it were just a fact. I left. I never posted the review. Never called the police. I looked the lodge up a few months later. It was gone. Not closed. Just erased. No listing, no address, no business license on record. Like it had never existed. I don't talk about this much. It happened in 2019. I had just gone through a rough breakup and needed time away, so I booked a weekend solo trip in northern Maine. There was a boutique in near Bar Harbor, quaint, family-owned, surrounded by pine trees and quiet roads. Seemed perfect. The innkeeper was a quiet woman named Ruth. Mid-60s, kind face, didn't talk much. When I checked in, she handed me an old-fashioned skeleton key and said, "You're in room 6. Please don't move the mirror." I blinked. "What?" She smiled politely. "The large mirror near the bed. It's a fixture of the house. Just leave it where it is." I nodded, trying to hide my confusion. I figured it was just a sentimental antique or something. The room was warm, cozy. Floral wallpaper. A fireplace that didn't work. And, of course, the mirror. It was a full-length standing mirror, wide as a door, leaning slightly against the wall beside the bed. Gilded edges, age-spotted glass, and a subtle warping at the top. Like the surface was always slightly unsettled. Like it rippled, even when you weren't moving. That night, I kept catching my reflection acting strange. Not moving differently, not at first, but delayed. I'd turn my head and watch as my mirrored self followed half a second later. I told myself it was just the warped glass. Old mirrors do that. But around 2 a.m., I woke up needing water. I sat up in bed and froze. The mirror across the room was completely dark, not reflecting anything, just black glass. I reached for my phone flashlight, heart starting to pound. I thought maybe the power had gone out or something, but no, the lamp worked fine. I looked again. The mirror was still black. I stood, approached it slowly, and that's when it lit up again, showing my reflection, now just a few feet away. But something was off. My reflection wasn't mimicking me. I was breathing heavily. It wasn't. I lifted my hand. It didn't move. Then suddenly it did. But not the way I expected. My mirrored self smiled. I didn't. That smile, tight, unnatural, was something I had never made in my life. Like it belonged to a version of me raised in shadows, someone who had never been taught what human expressions should look like. Just close enough to be believable, but not quite right. I stumbled backward, heart thudding. I turned and grabbed my bag, not caring about the hour. I needed to get out of that room. But when I opened the door, there was no hallway, just more mirrors, lining the walls, floor to ceiling, all showing different versions of me. In one, I was standing still. In another, I was screaming. In another, something was behind me. I slammed the door shut and turned to face the mirror in the room again. Now my reflection was gone entirely. The glass was empty. I didn't sleep. I sat with my back to the wall, light on, watching that thing like it was a live wire. At some point, I must have passed out from exhaustion. When I woke up, it was morning. The mirror was normal again. Just glass, reflecting me, the bed, the room. I left without saying goodbye. I didn't speak to Ruth. I didn't ask questions. But as I was walking to my car, I passed a side hallway where she kept old photos on the wall, black and white portraits of previous guests, or so I assumed. I glanced at one frame near the bottom and froze, because I was in it. Same coat, same bag, standing in front of the mirror in room 6. But my face wasn't right. I was smiling, that same unnatural smile. I never went back, never reported it. What could I even say? All I know is, ever since that night, my reflection has been different. Just slightly, delayed sometimes. And every once in a while, when I pass a mirror quickly or catch a glimpse in a dark window, I swear I see it smiling even when I'm not.